Okay, well, it is 6:15, so I am going to get our meeting started. Welcome, y'all, to our June WiVLA member meeting. It's hard for me to keep track of what the month is these days. Before we get started with this evening's programs, we have a few announcements. But before we do that, we always like to start our meetings off with the reading of our mission statement. So WiVLA's mission is to provide an inspiring forum for women to explore and advance their creative development, to promote their work in the marketplace, and to infuse the community with their spirit of cooperation and invention. And we try to do everything we can to live up to that mission statement every day. And our membership chair is not here. We have a real lean on the board this evening. Our membership chair is not here, but I don't see anybody that I don't know. So I think we're good on new members and guests. And our visual co-chair or chair is not here this evening. We need for the July-August virtual gallery, one more visual artist. We have one visual and we have one literary, and we could use another visual. So if you would like to participate, please go to our website and sign up. There's, I believe under events, you can go to the virtual gallery page and sign up there. We're good for September and October, but we could use one more visual artist for the November and December virtual gallery as well. So if July and August isn't your cup of tea or doesn't work in with your timing, keep November and December in mind. We have a bunch of things cooking for literary arts, but I'm just gonna put that little teaser out there. We will have more information next month. A lot of stuff going on. Smither Park, we have closed the call for design entries. So we will be going through the designs and getting with Sally and the Orange Show to pick the final design. So stay tuned for more information about that. Okay, the collaboration. We need more partners. Also, if you have a partner and haven't signed up, and I know there's at least one person on the board who falls into that category, please go to the website and sign up so we know who all has a partner. We have a fabulous venue. We have more space than we've ever had that I've seen and can recall for a collaboration. We will not be limiting the literary artists to 250 words for the gallery. They will be able to have the entire 750 words there, and in large enough print where you don't need a microscope to read it, or a magnifying glass, excuse me. The microscope would be too small. So I strongly encourage you to find a partner. Now, next Monday, I believe it's the 20, I don't know what the date is next Monday, but next Monday we are having a virtual event, kind of like a show and tell, the 27th, kind of a show and tell where you can get into a Zoom meeting with me, and I'd be really grateful if y'all didn't leave me here by myself in a Zoom meeting for a couple of hours. But anyway, where if you do not have a partner or would like another one, you can be on 2 teams. Please log on and you can show samples of your work. You can read samples of your work. You can also record some samples of your work. Margot, I need to ask you, have you received any videos or samples?
No.
Okay.
So
yeah. Okay. So it'd be really great if anyone who needs a partner, and I'll be sending out some more mail about this, to come to the virtual event. I can put you and another member in a little Zoom room where you can talk. or you can make plans to get together at another time. Keep in mind that our directory, our member directory, has an option where you can get in touch with another member. Their email address is not exposed. Your email address is not exposed, but you can click on send a message. And so you can get in touch with another member. I really, really would love to have everybody participating that can. It is going to be a great show. I think we have a wonderful theme this year, and I am just very eager to see what y'all can do. If you are unsure, maybe you haven't participated before, you have questions about it, you can certainly contact me or anyone else on the board. I know the first time I faced a collaboration, I was very nervous about it and didn't really understand it. So feel free to reach out to me. Okay, Margot, you are up. What's up for July, Margot?
Okay. Oh yeah, the teaser. Oh, okay. And I should take a picture of my sexy neighbor for the teaser for next month. For now, it's just, here we go. There's your tease. Nah. All right.
Okay.
Our speaker for July is Elizabeth Keel. I met her in the storytelling class. She is fantastic. She is involved with stages, theater. She is an actress, director, teacher, novelist, and playwright. And we're going to learn how to playwright. And we're going to do some writing exercises with her. Playful playwriting, and she's a fun person. I think you really will enjoy it. It will be lots of fun. So our upcoming workshops are, we have one on August 6th. It's Dive into Haiku, and it's with our own Denise Bussart. It's from 10 to 11:30. It's virtual, and there are 10 seats left. So be sure to sign up if you want to attend. And then September 17th, from 10 to 1, we have the magic of contour drawing. We have 14 seats left for that, and it will be at the Weekly Community Center in Cypress. And then our new thing that we just finalized today is we're having morning tea at the Mcu Tea Room in Bel Air. That will be Saturday morning, July 23rd, and the tickets will be $25. Members, and it's $45 for guests and non-members. And that $25 fee is 55% subsidized by WiVLA. So this is your chance to have a very elegant tea and have a reduced price for that. And then I am rescheduling the studio tour with Gail Tick. We had to, we're gonna have to reschedule that for the fall. And then Michelle O'Michael, I just heard back from her. She might be moving her studio. So we later on in the maybe late fall, early winter, we can have a tour of her studio. So that's it.
That's
so
it's a lot.
I know. All right, there are my Saturdays for the whole year. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's fun. I really enjoy. I enjoy the workshops and the activities, and it's really wonderful to be out and be with other WiVLA members. And hope you'll go to our calendar and check on the calendar, because there's a lot of fun things going on. So should I go ahead and introduce our speaker?
Go ahead. Yes.
Go ahead. Okay, I'm just really delighted that Anna Walker is joining us tonight as our presenter. She is the executive director of Lawndale Art Center, and she came to Lawndale from the Museum of Fine Arts Houston. Before that, she oversaw up to 12 exhibitions a year at the Houston Center for Contemporary Craft. She holds a BA in art from, is it Otterbein, focusing on ceramics and printmaking, and an MA in Arts Administration from Indiana University. So she has a wealth of experience, and I'm really excited to hear about what's going on at our Lawndale Art Center. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Marga. Thank you, WiVLA, for the invitation, very kind invitation I'm gonna share my screen to just to chat with you all tonight. Usually when I'm doing presentations, I like to allow for conversation, but I think, you know, Zoom is a challenging environment for that. But at the end, we're definitely having time for questions and answers, because I think, you know, all of you all being part of the Houston arts community here can certainly, I think, bring also your own wealth of knowledge and experiences and histories with Lawndale. As Margot mentioned, I'm newly the executive director there. I started in November. And while I'm new as the director, I've been in Houston now for a little over 13 years, and Lawndale's always held a special place in terms of the way I've seen it in the Houston arts community. And tonight, what I thought I would do is talk a little bit about all the different programs that we do, but also I'm going to chat a little bit about some of the ways I'm thinking about how these programs will be evolving, and then some exciting, you know, sort of new developments towards the end of the conversation too. So for Lawndale, we are a multidisciplinary contemporary arts center. For us, that means that not only visual arts, but also, as you mentioned, for you all, literary arts is something that we showcase in our gallery spaces through different partnerships and presentations. Also dance, performance, sound art, music, all of these have a place for the contemporary art that we're showing and the artists that we consider to sort of be part of the Lawndale community. And so we engage with these through the exhibitions and programs, and always with artists who are exploring the aesthetic, critical, and social issues of our time. And something I think is important too is I'm always thinking of, it's not necessarily, I think folks like to use language like, oh, that's where emerging artists show. There's some sort of coded language for that. But I think also really what's more important is we should think about artists who are having critical moments in their careers. So it might not be emerging, it could be mid-career, later career, but there are these sort of critical moments that Lawndale is interested in fostering. And so that's the way that I'm thinking about the artists that we work with. Just a quick little background for those of you who may or may not be familiar. And I was going to say, I have a couple of images, but certainly Pete Gershon, I know y'all mentioned Orange Show, he's got a new
Recording in progress.
Oh, we're having some.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. All right, let's see. Maybe I think June, if you want to mute, that might.
I'm headed that way right now.
Oh, okay,
Sorry.
got it. No worries. I'm looking to see, yeah, because sometimes if we aren't muted, it's like gives the back feedback or whatever. Pete Gershon has a publication out about sort of artist-run spaces, histories in Houston. And right now I'm blanking on the exact title of the name, but he's over at the Orange Show. Y'all were mentioning the Orange Show. And so I just give a shout out to that publication for a really great in-depth look at some of Lawndale's history alongside other art spaces here in the Houston area. And here we have an exhibition from in 1980 when Lawndale initially was founded in 1979 by a group of artists coming out of the University of Houston's grad school program, the graduate school where exhibitions were happening had a fire. And so they had to relocate to the Lawndale, what was called the Lawndale Annex. So it's on Lawndale Street over in the East End. And from 1979 until 1989, the exhibitions were held in this annex space. And the organization Lawndale, as we know it, was this artist-run space with also different programs, summer exhibitions, summer summer music festivals, all sorts of different entertainment. And these sort of early days really are the sort of heart and soul of how Lawndale's really founded from an artist-based practice and artist community. And so these are just some archival images, some of these early times. And then in 1989, the organization becomes is because of financial reasons, is no longer at the Lawndale Annex. It becomes nomadic for a few years until it finds a home in the historic building that it's in today. Here we see an image of Main Street from the 1940s underneath the Grand Prize Beer marquee there. That is the Lawndale building that we are in today. It was built in 1929. John Finger building, and now I'm just like fact checking myself in my brain, really exciting to have had it we moved in there. Lawndale moved in there in 1993, and since that time, you can see on the left sort of the building in these early days, and then when it underwent a renovation in the early 2000s to its facade that you see today on Main Street. So our historic building, and here it is, painted in all its glory with the Mary Loudon sculpture garden in the back, which has Cindy Travis Clement's symbiosis project in view, which I'll talk a little bit about later. And we, at Lawndale, there are several different exhibition spaces. There, the John O'Quinn Gallery, the Cecily Horton Gallery, the Kavnar Gallery, Grace R. Kavnar Gallery, and then there's a fourth space, the project space, which lately with COVID has not been being programmed as much, because that third floor is also where we have our artist studio program. So if we're thinking of Lawndale's mission, the exhibitions and the exhibition program is certainly a key element that I think many folks are familiar with, and we rotate these exhibitions. I would consider it like a school calendar, like semesters. So we have sort of a fall semester of exhibitions, a spring semester of exhibitions, and then in the summer we always have the big show, which is the annual exhibition featuring artists from within 100 miles of Houston, and it's always juried by usually not always, usually a juror from outside of the Houston area. I like to think of someone having a tie to Texas or Houston being kind of a nice added layer. This year's juror is Daisy Nam, who's the curator and director at Ballroom Marfa. So with the exhibition programs, I think that an element that I'm always excited about for our building is we are a pretty versatile space. It's an open space. Here you can see Emily Peacock's exhibition Die Laughing. And we have fostered artists solo shows in this space, group shows. Usually our exhibition programming is done through an open call. The open call creates what should be a more egalitarian method of individuals pitching exhibition ideas from the Houston community to be included in our gallery spaces. I'm planning to and hoping to evolve that model a little bit and create potentially what I want to think of as like an incubator model. So exhibitions are proposed, and then there's a number of exhibitions that are selected, and a stipend is provided to workshop those exhibitions ideas with Lawndale staff and team in order to help better develop budgets, floor plans, programming, even curatorial concepts around the exhibit, and then work with hopefully partners in the Houston arts community more broadly to consider how those exhibitions, some might happen at Lawndale, but perhaps some happen in other gallery spaces throughout the city. So this is kind of an idea that I've been thinking about and talking with some of our artist community members, because historically when we do this exhibition open call, folks kind of send it into the abyss, and you get like a yes or no, and we really only have a couple of slots a year. And I really want Lawndale to kind of get back to a roots where it is fostering and helping develop artists exhibition making too. I think that's something that we do inherently whenever we work with these artists, and I think it could be something that we could involve more with our community. And so that's sort of one aspect of growth that I'm looking ahead towards, although it's, it can't all happen like immediately, but hopefully within the next year or so we can shift towards that type of thinking. And just I'm showing a couple of installation shots of the gallery space with past exhibitions that we've had here. I think both this exhibit, both are solo shows. I just realized I didn't pick a group show for this particular presentation, but another aspect of Lawndale's exhibition making has to do with writing and scholarship and writing around exhibition making. Both Marcelin McNeil and Emily Peacock's exhibits had essays that were commissioned from different scholars in the field. Those sort of, how should I say, like matchmaking, and essentially happened through Lawndale. And I think that for artists to have a piece of writing about their work and to work in collaboration with an author is a really exciting thing for us to always make sure that we're incorporating as part of our exhibition practice. We have also recently, thinking more broadly about what writing looks like when it's in collaboration or in conversation with an artist who's working in different distinct visual materials. Angelica Raquel's Spirit Epoch, which was the exhibition in the Horton Gallery this past winter. This was really one of the first exhibitions. The exhibition calendar has already kind of been scheduled prior to my coming on board. And so a number of these projects that we're seeing out have already been in the works. But for Angelica Raquel, one aspect that was missing was the writing component. So when I talked with her about her work and with the history behind the materials that she's using, she's doing a lot of visual storytelling around oral stories that were told to her growing up along the Texas-Mexico border from her grandfather. And so the oral storytelling tradition is really important for her. And so we talked through and worked with a poet who she's close with and has worked with in her school, Jacinto Jesus Cardona, and we commissioned the poet to respond to her work. He wrote this really beautiful poem, and then we had it, published in the catalog, but we also had a QR code and the ability for folks to listen to Jacinto read the poem in the gallery. So this poem, so we recorded it, and we also wanted to kind of layer in that idea of the spoken word and the poetry and having that experience in the space. And I think that that's something you can find on our website. And I would encourage everyone to listen, because the sound of someone reading a poem is such a different experience than someone like aloud, and it really layered in a really great element to her exhibition making. So for me, I really want to sort of open up and not always stick to these strict like ideas around what is, sort of writing in the art field. So similarly, thinking about writing and supporting artists in their practices, Bria Lauren's Gold Was Made for Her was on view when I became on board as director, also in the Horton Gallery. This project was curated by Rebecca Madelon, who's a curator at the Contemporary Arts Museum. So here in Houston. And so we're not only working with artists, we're also working with local curators to think about the exhibitions that are happening in our space. And for Bria, we're also in collaboration and conversation after this project has since come down, because the written element of her project. She was working with a writer and artist, Danielle Mason, to create some of the text for the work, but the history of a photo book for photographers has a real presence in the photography field. And for these Black women in Third Ward that Bria is neighbors and are important matriarchs in her life, we really are excited about creating a document that will be sort of more in keeping with this project after the fact, rather than just sort of a pamphlet. So again, this idea too, for me, in terms of Lawndale's relationship with artists, I think about sustainability, I think about long-term relationships, and I think about that these projects can kind of evolve and take place over the course of several years, as opposed to like, okay, we have this 1 month, we'll just do it like this, how we've always done this, and then we'll like move on to the next artist in the next month. So I kind of am enjoying and thinking about, you know, opening ourselves up to some new relationship models for the institutional artist collaboration. We have outdoor spaces. I mentioned that the Mary Bowden Sculpture Garden, where we have historically had different sculpture exhibited, and that's definitely something that can be possible in the future. Here, this Sounds from the Swamp installation engaged with experimental music from composers here in the Houston area, and it also, again, had what the author J.D. Pluker described as a text object. And then today you're kind of getting a like overall view just prior to my coming on board. The previous director, Stephanie Mitchell, had engaged Cindy Travis Clement with a project Symbiosis, which is a living land art piece focused on regenerative agriculture and soil health, and thinking about our role as Lawndale within the urban corridor and environment around sustainability, and thinking of sort of the ways in which we've been maybe taught to sort of manicure our outdoor spaces, but instead pivoting that to be focused on native plant life and plants that are really going to return carbon to our soils and help with our ecological health. And so this project will be over the course of several years, and every time you visit, it kind of is in a different state, which is really exciting. And so wonderful to continue to kind of visit back and see. That's it. Let me see if there we go. And similarly, one of our exterior spaces, the Main Street windows. This project was begun also by Stephanie in 2020 with the curator, and I would say also jazz historian, musician, artist, Tierney Malone, who has been working with 3 artists a year to respond to the racial history of America and provide presence for Black stories to be told that maybe have been largely erased or ignored by our current and present day history. And so past artists always include a public program that inspire this dialogue in the community and includes a commissioned print. And I think, you know, we've talked about exhibition physical spaces like inside the building, the garden outside the building space, layering in writing alongside the visuals. And here we're also, I think, layering in not only a public art component where this is facing Main Street, you can see it when you're coming by, but also thinking about dialogues across disciplines. So these dialogues usually take place with, I would say, scholars who are in other fields, not necessarily in the visual arts field, in dialogue with the artist and with the curator, which really, I think, allows for really expansive conversations. And those will be published on our website, hopefully in the coming months. We need to edit the recordings, as I'm sure you all also spend lots of time doing, it sounds like, too. And so those are sort of what's happening throughout our calendar year. But then in the summer, our galleries are become the annual big show. This is a 2021 installation view. We don't have the professional images of the current iteration, and my cell phone snaps were not so great. But again, always working with a juror. I think the really exciting part about the big show is in any given moment, you're kind of going to get this snapshot of not only what's being made in the sort of Houston area, but also the point of view of this juror and the way that they are thinking about framing and conceptualizing a juried show within the area. So it's a certain level of trust. It depends on who submits to the open call, and it also depends on how the juror, decides to frame the works and group them, display them. This year's juror, Daisy, did an amazing job of asking for the floor plan in advance and really thinking about how to fill the space in a way that was almost, I would say, like a curated show, as opposed to sort of picking the works first and then sort of seeing how they would fit. So it was nice to sort of be involved and hear how she worked through this process. With Lawndale's exhibition programs on the sort of first, second floor, outdoor spaces. On the third floor space, we have our artist studio program. The artist studio program's a little over 15 years old. For those of you who aren't familiar with this, we have 3 studio spaces. We always do, it's an open call for applications, and then it's the applications for the studio program, which runs from September through May. The artists receive a monthly stipend and a materials budget to make their work. The sort of other layers or components is that there's an exhibition or publication or performance that is also part of the studio program. Usually it's in the sort of second half of the year. Here you can see some of our members visiting with studio artists, David and Jacqueline in 2019. Oh, they had a 2-year because of pandemic times. Their residency ended up being 2 years, but usually this is a 1 year or like a school year program. And then the resulting exhibition has also, again, this partnership with here this past year, we worked with 2 authors, J.D. Pluker and Mike Stevenson, to write essays on the work that were in the exhibition. So the 3 artists who are included in the artist studio program are part of this sort of culminating exhibit. I say that this is how it was done this year because I also think that depending on who the studio program artists are, it will shape what the kind of final project is. One of the great things about Lawndale is that we can be so sort of nimble and adjust based on the needs of the artists who we serve. And so artists who might have more performance practice, artists who have more of a writing practice, this type of exhibition model might not work for them. And so I'm sort of trying to stay open to other ways of presenting their work at the end. There's also been historically a curator involved with the artist studio program for this final project, which we have this past year we're not able to have because of the initial curators who signed on had some health problems come up. And so it did mean that in the end, I worked more closely with the artists on their exhibition that they did. And I think that it maybe taught us that the curator can definitely be a part of this larger conversation, but there's also space for the artists to really direct and lead what they would want. I will say though, however, Laura August, who's an amazing curator and a recently joined the Rubin Center in El Paso project, City Singing with Robert Hodge, Julia Barbosa Landois, and John Pluker, who now is known as J.D. Pluker. In 2019, Laura was really thoughtful in like thinking through layers of installation and public programming and catalogs. And I think that this is something we can aspire to get back to. I think just, you know, we are all hopefully being a little more kind and patient to ourselves with the pandemic times that we live in. But I am excited to share that we do have incoming 2022 to 2023 Artist Studio Program artists selected and just announced a couple weeks ago. Chelsea Clark, whose work is in the sort of top left corner, then Alexis Pye and Veronica Gayana, if you sort of go clockwise. So these three artists will be joining us in the fall to help sort of shape and determine our programs for this next year. And so I've sort of described a lot of our mission-based work with artists and exhibitions programs, but also we have really amazing community partnerships, some of which have been on hiatus for a while and will hopefully bring back, but two of which have been ongoing for all through the pandemic. They Who Sound, which is a collaboration with the organization Nameless Sound and David Dove. This series is on Monday evenings in the fall and the spring. It's not on currently happening in the summer, but every Monday evening at Lawndale, there is usually two sets of sound performances, and they happen in the gallery spaces alongside the artwork. So a really it's a free event open to the public, and thrilled that it can happen with Lawndale, that we have this collaboration ongoing. And similarly with the Gulf Coast Journal, we have their monthly readings, again, the sort of fall and spring semesters, usually anywhere from 3 to 4 authors in those evenings as well, happening in the gallery spaces. So both of these are community partnerships that we continue to maintain and excited to grow. One project that hopefully will be coming back at some point that has had a history is the Speakeasy Series. This is a series of performances, but it's also been panels, I believe, and lectures at Lawndale, where we invite different collaborators to come and perform in the space. And so it's again been on sort of pause for a little while, but that's one that we'll hopefully consider bringing back. And similarly, Family Day, we have had a great relationship with the Houston Center for Contemporary Craft, which is right across the street from us. We, share, I think, a lot of visitors. Sometimes someone parks at one space and then goes to visit the other because you can just walk across. And in this fall, we'll hopefully do a joint Family Day, and then we'll also be talking with the Houston Met Dance Center, which is in the building sort of adjacent, or like abuts our building, as well, to sort of join in for maybe hopefully a little bit of a block party. So again, kind of keeping in touch and growing this community-wide event. Usually in the past, we've had different activities, art making activities in the gallery spaces, often I think responding to our exhibitions. So we'll see what will work best for those exhibits in the fall. And we couldn't do what we do without some of our membership programs, the artist communities that, you know, we are involved with in serving, and our events that we have throughout the year. So all of our galleries are open and free to the public Wednesday through Saturday, 11 to 5. And we have all of our programs that are, again, sort of free and open to the public. And one aspect of supporting all of this is our membership. And our members have different varying levels, but one of the membership levels that I'm interested in being more engaged with is our membership level that can borrow from our lending library. So those of you who might be familiar with Lawndale, and maybe with Nick Barbie, who's an artist and lives now in Galveston, but he began an arts lending library in Galveston, and then very kindly kind of lent the idea to Lawndale. He's currently the chair of our arts advisory board. This was a couple of years ago that the library became part of Lawndale's programming. The idea being that usually it's artists who've been showing in the big show, but it can be other artists from within the Houston community. They have work in sort of some portions of our galleries that then can go out on loan to our members at the $100 household level or the $350 Studio Circle member level. So, you know, $100 level for the year and above can borrow artwork for their homes. This idea of connecting artists with collectors and community members, a number of individuals who first kind of come across Lawndale might be more intimidated by this concept of collecting art. And this is a really sort of easy way to become more familiar with that. And for our Houston artists, we think of it as a great way to hopefully have their work go and join someone's home for the year. And then at the end of the year, we have our brunch or like a silent auction, and we auction off the work. So like I jokingly say, you know, you foster this artwork for the year, and then at the end of the year, you know, it either finds its forever home with you or it can find its forever home somewhere else. And I think that if we start to sort of make that just feel normal for folks, I'm hopeful that maybe people won't just, you know, go to IKEA and buy the poster like that's like framed and hanging nearby, and instead be like, well, what could I think of, you know, for my space that's from a Houston area artist? And sometimes honestly they're like similar price points. So I think that this is just like a really great aspect of our membership, but also hopefully it's like has this kind of educational mission component as well, for not only, you know, for our collectors and our artists. And so that's part of this project that we hope to grow and continue more of. And part of that too is also some corporate relationships. We recently partnered with the ION, which is part of Rice University's projects in the sort of innovation corridor, they're calling it, here on Main Street, sort of north of, just north of us. And they're a corporate lending library member, you know, for a higher membership level. And they have a selection of Lawndale Lending Library artworks in their communal co-working spaces. So again, this idea of looking at you know, it's an office space that isn't quite open to the public, but it has a significant number of people visiting it. And so this artwork is on view for them for the next 6 months, and then we'll rotate it out with some new works on view. So, okay, so then probably the most kind of larger scale project, or something that's been pretty big since I came on as director. I came on when this lot right next door to Lawndale was available for sale earlier this summer. Most folks seem to think that that this lot, overgrown lot, and sort of in front of this our mural project is something that we own, but we did not. It was put up for sale early 2021 during the transition in leadership. And so the board began negotiations and contract conversations with the sellers around this lot. And so I've been working with our team and our board to look into acquiring and raising the funds around the acquisition of this lot as part of sort of Lawndale's larger plan and project that, as I mentioned to our board, these were conversations that we would typically have after a new director had been sort of in place for a time, but it's an opportunity that came up and we really kind of needed to take advantage of that. It's long been desired by Lawndale to own that property since the 1990s, both just for, sort of interest, but also thinking about we have the sort of L shape, and then we can kind of have more space in order to consider our stewardship of the sort of community, the in between us and the craft center too. And oh yeah, here's what I was gonna say. So you can sort of see where we're located along this Main Street corridor. We're in the museum district, but just sort of near Midtown. And there's been a lot of development happening along that space. And so we, and here you can see where sort of the red outlines Lawndale's current footprint, and then the blue is the addition. I will share that Lawndale already has significant gallery space. As you've all seen, we have a wide range of programs, and we have this all with a very small team. And so I have not been thinking about necessarily that this is, Lawndale is not building a Lawndale like new, like 2.0 or whatever. Lawndale's building and space remains the sort of heart and soul of what we're doing. However, we could engage with Houston artists and other different community members to share a plan for the area in acquiring this land. I'm thinking about things like cooperative co-ops and like how those shared membership programs can be, whether that's meeting space, tool rentals, practice spaces, performance spaces. I think there's also opportunities for it to continue to stay outdoor space. There's definitely a place for pocket prairies and other types of outdoor programming, film screenings. If anything, the pandemic has taught us that the outdoor space is something that we might need to always be able to shift towards, and thinking about this sort of pedestrian friendly area. And again, being a sort of sustainable and environmentally conscientious as part of this outdoor corridor. So the plans for me is to have over the next year more community listening sessions, engagement with our audiences and our artists that we currently serve and artists that we don't serve, folks that we want to get to know, and start to develop and dream up a plan of what sort of the needs are for the Houston artists in our community, and think about the way that that could best be served through a development, down the road. And so we were able to raise the funds, although there's still a portion of fundraising that is ongoing and happening, and closed on the land several weeks ago. So we do now, have that lot, and I'm excited that we can now start to kind of really think about what happens next for Lawndale in that way. So I will leave us with this beautiful picture. But I'll stop sharing and can open it up for some questions, conversation, and there we go. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Couple of things, so many things came to mind during your presentation, but I just have to say, the artist studio program, so those wood floors were beautiful. So do you let painters in those rooms? I mean, how do you, anyway, that's a whole other subject. I'm just like, I'm so used to concrete floors that, where stuff drops. But you talked some about, reading and in response to the artwork. And there's a couple of us here, I think, there's not everyone, but Donna Perkins and I have been on the receiving end of people writing ekphrastic poetry of our work. And we had a workshop a couple of weeks ago where it's an amazing thing to have somebody write about your work and read it. I know that Archway Gallery has monthly, and now, Margot, you're gonna have to jump in here and correct anything I misstate, but I think once a month on some Thursday, you have the readings, and many of them are ekphrastic, correct?
Not all. Donna can really speak to that better than me.
We have, in fact, we're about to celebrate our 25th anniversary in August, and we have had monthly meetings all that time. But we switched to Zoom during the pandemic, and we're going to go back July and then August for sure. And we go back to the gallery, and it's very open as to the type of writing you want to share. And what we've had mainly is a 3-minute time limit. So it's like whatever you want to share for 3 minutes. And it's
5 minutes.
There's been a lot of, and Margot is very good with this, making sure there's a lot of food and warm and friendly and party place. But we don't really critique the work. We share the work. And that was important for me when we started off. And so,
yeah. And a lot of what WiVLA does is, the writing, like these collaboration projects that I was talking about, is where the writer and the artist gets together. And so it becomes almost like one, I don't want to say one piece, but the writing and the artwork are very much part of this a new project. But it would be kind of neat to, open the doors to writers such as the WiVLA members for an ekphrastic reading evening of the artwork there. I was amazed. We had, like I said, we had a workshop a couple weeks ago. I'm losing track of time. We recorded it for the people who attended to be able to go back and listen to it. And the leader of this group gave him 8 minutes, and it was amazing. I mean, Margaret was one of the writers who came back with almost like completed work in 8 minutes. Carolyn Dahl was one of our poets for our Poetry Month. And Carolyn, one of your pieces about a cow picture. But I mean, it's like, so there's, there's like a whole group of us here, not me, because I can't write, but there's a lot of members in WiVLA who are phenomenal writers. That it just seemed like it would be a mix with the ekphrastic writing and readings at Lawndale.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Lee.
I just wanted to say I was really impressed with your thoughts on collaborating with the neighboring art groups, like with the Craft Center, and then what'd you say, was it ballet or
The Met Dance, Houston Met Dance Center.
Yeah. And that's something that WiVLA has always been interested in, is looking around at the other art groups and how can we cross over, even though it's a different discipline. What can we do, and particularly smaller groups like us pairing up with another group and all. And I want to know, do you see this as a trend that art centers like Lawndale and other nonprofits, and like we're nonprofit and all, trying to work more with other groups instead of like competing for audience or space or whatever? So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends It probably depends so much on the leadership and the board and kind of where their priorities lie typically. I do think for Lawndale, we have had such great, and I didn't even share all of the like pre-pandemic partnerships we had with like uh, the Baker Ripley Center, Periwinkle Foundation. Like there've been other community focused projects that we've had, I would say, with sort of like maybe visual art or art specific programs, but they needed to be in person. And so we'll probably reassess and look to do more of those in the future. But for me, some of them make sense geographically because they're our neighbors and they're in the arts, and like, why not have like a block part, why not share? And Nameless Sound and Gulf Coast, both for different reasons, have had historically, like I think Nameless Sound, the project's been going on now for at least 5 or 6 years. We've been having this relationship with them. Gulf Coast is at UH and Lawndale's founding was at UH. So I think I'm interested in continuing and making sure that we have a UH connection that is maintained, even if we're not, formally part of UH in any sense. We still have that history with the organization. So I think that there are sort of natural partnerships that can happen, and some that can happen as one-off kind of, whether it's event specific or one series of programs, or some that become more sustaining, like the Nameless Sound or the Gulf Coast reading series. I don't know if I'd consider it's interesting, like the idea of a trend, but I've often found the Houston arts community to be collaborative within its institutional structures, more so than some other cities might be. So I think that definitely helps. I saw that the video like alerted me that someone had their hand raised, but I don't remember who.
Yes, that's me.
Oh, okay, sure. Does that answer the question?
Okay.
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah.
I had a question about Lawndale. For years did a Day of the Dead exhibit, and that went away a couple of years back.
Yes.
Is that going to come back?
So it was shifted to be
Mecca.
Mecca, yes. And I think that part of the reasoning had to do with considering Lawndale's leadership, and considering that Lawndale was using a cultural celebration that for fundraising purposes, that was not necessarily the culture that we as the sort of board had representation of. And so this idea of Lawndale's using that event to raise funds for our programs, just while initially its intentions, I think, are very pure, I think we need to consider today how those types of relationships that develop, and how to have those in a way that is much more considerate. And we had conversations, my understanding is had conversations with Mecca, and so happily kind of gave the program to them. And that doesn't mean that we can't have Day of the Dead type celebrations and events that happen in our space and celebrate the culture, but not the sort of Day of the Dead event that you're thinking of historically. That won't come back.
Okay, another question is, is there going to be something similar to that, where it's basically an open call and the artwork is being auctioned off?
That's a good question. We haven't thought about reintroducing that, but I wouldn't say that it would be off the table. I think that something instead that's been put in place is more the lending library auction that happens. Because for me, I'll just speak for me, I'm not going to speak for Lawndale at the moment, but the idea of sort of assigning artists kind of a project to then sort of be auctioned off. I'd much prefer to like engage artists in the work that they're already making and have that get auctioned off and go towards a sort of home and a collector, because I think that it's important to support artists at the practice that they have, rather than perhaps give them a parameter to fall within because I think it's, you know, a good idea. That's just like my own feelings on it though, but I'd, you know, be open to that down the road. Mhm. Yeah. It's a tricky one though. I don't know. It's like, I know that the event was much beloved by many. So I think that there are just other ways that hopefully we can engage and celebrate the different communities that we serve, and also other ways that we can support artists through their efforts.
And that's really tricky, I
Hello?
think. You're walking a fine line there because Mecca does a great job with the Day of the Dead. And it just seems like a natural, terrific spot with them, with all the ofrendas and the music and everything they do. So, you know, yeah, you don't want to be like plucking out other people's culture, but I understand Jean's comments that, you know, artists are sometimes enthusiastic about a theme. It's fun to create something based on a theme. And that's kind of like the WiVLA. Every other year we do a collaboration, but the idea, we have a really broad theme. Here it's reflection. We've done space, renewal. I mean, just these really broad themes that a writer and an artist can come together, and the idea is to create something brand new together, take that theme and just go whatever direction they want. And rather than, here's my artwork, write about it, or here's my writing, do a picture of it, you know. So it's a exciting collaboration that everyone looks forward to. And yeah, he's like trying to get everyone paired up now for this upcoming one. But you know, sometimes artists, they like to be like, oh, here's a chance to show my work, here's a theme, I can do that. So you know, it's there's always, you're not going to please everyone, Anna.
No. Well, there's something, I mean, if your membership enjoys and your membership is who's created that structure for yourselves. We're a nonprofit organization, and we have a membership program, but we're not a membership based sort of organization in the same way, right? So like we have to sort of, I think, structurally we operate in a slightly different way. Oh yes, sorry.
Hi. Hi, I would like to make a comment about the Retablo show. Over many, many years, I purchased Retablos, and it was an opportunity to collect many of Houston's very well-known artists donated pieces for the Retablo show. And I mean, even Lester Marks has almost an entire wall of Retablos that he collected from Lawndale Retablo show. And I think you're really missing out, because your lending library is fine, but it cannot provide the type of fundraiser that the Retablo show provided. And speaking for the public, it was an opportunity for the public to see the work, and the Retablos followed the styles of the artist. It was definitely recognizable. You could scan the wall and you could spot the work of a particular artist, and the bidding was phenomenal for pieces that people recognized by known artists of renown. And it was a fantastic event. And to say that you have a work from so-and-so artist. I mean, I I have a Burt Long piece that I highly prize, and I would never have been able to afford a Burt Long piece if it had not been for the Retablo show. And I probably have about 15 to 20 Retablos, and I prize my collection, as does Lester Marks. So I think you're missing out.
Well, I'm happy that Mecca is happy, though, in the sense that there is there is still a sort of component of this in terms of the cultural celebration aspect. But I hear you, and I understand that, and even attended the Retablos myself too. Those celebrations, certainly. So thanks for the comment.
Any other questions or comments for Anna? Yes, Donna? She's unmuting. Okay.
I just want to say it's been interesting to speak with you, and I hadn't put your face and name together with the person who used to work over at the craft center. So
Sure.
yeah, and I find what you have to say about it exciting and interesting. I used to drop by Lawndale a lot when it was like on my way home from my studio, and so I did that a lot. But since the pandemic, I haven't, and I've moved and I live in my studio now. So,
Oh wow.
but I welcome. I'm welcome. I want to welcome you to this position because I think you will do it very well.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's kind. Yes, I recognized your face too from Craft Center, I think, as well. So a number of you actually, so which is always great.
Well, thanks for your comments, Donna, because I think they represent what many of us feel. It's been a very excellent and educational, informative presentation this evening. And we really appreciate you taking the time out from what I know is a very busy schedule for you right now
Yeah.
to come and spend an evening with us.
Thanks.
And as I mentioned earlier, you will be on the roles of one of our honorary members starting in a couple of days.
Oh, lovely. That sounds great. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I'm really excited about the future of Lawndale, and I'm really excited about the land and how you plan to. I mean, that just sounds like such a wonderful idea to make. I've never heard of a pocket prairie.
Yeah.
That is just a great, that's such a great term.
Yeah, there's a number of them in Houston that have started. I guess I'm not doing a good job of providing the original authorship of it. So that is not like a me idea, by the way.
Just want to say, I think it's exciting that since you secured that land, that you're going to use the like Lawndale thinking to make it maybe a really flexible space, just like their original building is, and you're able to do so many different things that if that space can be more than one of those things you listed, that's going to really be useful for your neighboring groups, and invite a lot of collaboration with artists. So it'll be interesting to see what y'all do with that. Can I go to the Lawndale website and sign up for newsletters? Is there a newsletter?
Yeah.
Or something like
Yeah, on your website. Yeah, on the website.
Keep up with what y'all decide to do.
Yes,
So.
yes, please do. You can even probably, whenever we figure out the structure, we'll join in on community listening sessions. I mean, for me, it's thinking about different artists, collectives, and artist groups, and how can we best serve their interests and needs through the development. So I'm always kind of, I don't know, co-ops and kind of shared land is of interest for me as well. So especially thinking about institutional institutional relationships with the different sort of community members. So yeah, sign up for our newsletter, and I promise we don't send them out so often that your inbox hopefully won't be overwhelmed. There's just me and one other staff person right now, so we like sort of frantically put them together, frankly, sometimes. So apologies for typos, but we'll hopefully be hiring a third person in the fall. So
Well, I joined the conversation, the presentation, and I appreciate the presentation so much. I'm a literary artist. I'm a playwright and a monologuist. But I want to say I was struck. I'm coming off of watching the hearings today as I did my household chores. I think Lawndale is democracy at work. You are reaching out, you're doing the collectives, you're reaching out to these other groups. And I know maybe some exhibits or some things have fallen off the grid a little bit. But you're a vital institution, and the acquisition of the land is very exciting. And I, for one, would love to get that slide of the map of what's happening along that corridor, because I think that is vital. I want to tell you, I am an employee of, I'm a retiree from Rice after 29 years there as a staff member. And if Rice is putting their money, you know, into some land and developing things, you know, it's got to be good for the city of Houston. And I mean that I'm saying things a little bit biasly, but I think that was a very vital map you showed us, and the acquisition of your lot, that this is all good news. And keep up the work of democracy and the arts. I mean, thank you. Thank you.
yeah, I can definitely send that slide over to, I think, to Margot, and can share.
Yeah. It's heady stuff. I mean, all of you have been in the arts world more than I have been in Houston, but think what this means for Houston. You know, it's really significant what's happening along there. So, okay, that's my opinion.
Appreciate it.
So on their website, which is lawndaleartscenter.org, at the bottom of the page, there's join our mailing list, and you can also follow them on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I believe I'm already on your mailing.
The Twitter account is somewhat defunct. I will just fully admit that, but we'll try to do better.
Don't click the little birdie then. Okay.
I mean, sure, but Instagram and Facebook might get you more information.
All right. Well noted. Thank you.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, anything else, ladies?
Nope.
Once again,
Great.
thank you so
Thank you.
much, Anna. It's
Thank
been a
you.
wonderful evening.
That's
Thank
lovely.
you.
Thanks for the
you.
invitation. Very generous.
All right. We look
Okay.
forward to seeing you again soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Good night,
Bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Night.
Bye.